Hello and welcome to Brimwood Farm. So starting a farm is pretty complicated, and I'm someone that likes to use lots and lots of lists to kind of work out where my priorities are, keep on track of stuff, and also if I don't write stuff down, my head becomes like an anxious mess. So I really need to get it out into lists so that I can kind of be proactive and work through stuff. Otherwise, I'm very much a procrastinator, and I'm very much likely to dwell on negativity rather than look at a list, see what I've got to do and work my way through it. So I thought today, as obviously the farming year for 2020 is kind of out a little bit, I'm just going to show you my process of what I'm planning, how I'm planning to do it, and how I'm breaking all those lists down in terms of all of the farm projects and the conservation stuff and the animals. So when we sit down and we think about what we want our future farm to be, it has kind of three core components. The first is the market garden, and that is the key core business that we're kind of basing everything else from. We know that people buy vegetables. We know that there are lots of farmers markets in our area, and it's quite an affluent area, and we know we'll be able to sell. So our key kind of core business is that market garden where we're growing vegetables, harvesting nuts and fruits and things, and selling them to not only to locals but hopefully in the future further afield. The second sort of thread of our business is livestock. Now, livestock can take a long time to actually make any decent returns on, which is why it's number 2 and not number 1. If you're raising animals for meat for yourself, that's brilliant. That's one thing we do aim to do. But raising, I don't want to become a meat machine. I don't want to be churning out loads of lambs every year. I kind of want to focus on pedigree livestock for future breeding stock for other people. That takes a lot of input before you start getting good returns. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is conservation. Unfortunately, conservation makes zero money. You really can't make a lot of money out of it. I might be able to run workshops and things in the future to bring in some cash. But the principal business is the market garden and the animals, and they will help fund all the conservation work. As do you guys, so you watching YouTube and Patreons, especially if you donate on Patreon, that money goes directly into the conservation, which is really good. Of course, we're using farming practices that help the local conservation, so no dig, regenerative agriculture, agroforestry and things like that. So that's all going to help with the conservation sort of thread of things, but that doesn't make any money, so I can't make tons of money from that to push that. So that will be, the conservation is kind of a side aspect of the 2 core businesses. So let's look at the market garden and kind of what's entailed, and I'll show you how I'm breaking it down and planning. So for each of the business aspects, this is obviously the market farm. I've broken it down into kind of a bit of a layout for the market farm, and then we have a jobs list, and we have a business plan and ideas. And we have that for the market farm, we have that for the farm livestock with the jobs list, business plan, and farm breeds, and then we have it for the conservation as well. And then we also have miscellaneous, and we've got purchase list. So the purchase list year 1 for the market garden, the purchase list for the livestock, what I need, the purchase list for farm projects, etc. But let's head back to the market farm garden. So I've done a rough kind of layout of the garden, and I should say that this is all basically stolen from other people watching YouTube and realizing great ideas. Now, if this looks slightly similar to anything, then Serena and Ian over at You Can't Eat the Grass, I've used most of your ideas. If you haven't watched that channel before, by the way, You Can't Eat the Grass with Serena and Ian, go and watch it. It's brilliant. I've been binging it. So this is the layout. So we're going to be doing 50-foot market garden beds, and they are going to run down here. I may fit in more. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8 beds at the moment. I'm going to probably have 10 to 12 to 15. And this isn't structured as well. This is the outline of the current market garden, but I can expand it this way. There's lots of space. Towards the bottom are the polytunnels. I've just put them there for aesthetics, really, because I don't want them right up by the house. I prefer them a little bit further away. And then we've got compost bins at the bottom. Our chickens are going to be kept right down the field here. So it makes sense for me to have a compost bin from all the market farm waste here. And then have the muck heap for the chickens here, because then I can just bring it up in barrows from the field and put it in here, and then I can sort of throw this over, mulch it all in, and then carry it off to wherever I want it, which is really, really good. Water butts for the poly. I watched some fantastic permaculture videos, and one of them had hens in the poly, and they had a little way of coming out. So they basically could come out of the polytunnel under a little, I guess, a little tunnel, and then come into a coop outside. But it was just great because you could feed anything you picked from the poly, you could feed straight to the chickens. Like, you know, overgrown weeds, seed heads, etc. They also created some heat in the winter, and actually also in one particular video they built their their sort of seedling thing right above the chickens, and so the heat from the chickens actually helped get those seed starts going, which I thought was really, really interesting. Another really good permaculture thing is having a small wildlife pond just in your market garden, a place where frogs and toads and amphibians that snack on bugs can happily live and come out at night to snack on all those nasty pests. We've got this lovely hedge along here, which again is really, really good for all the birds. We're going to close crop it because at the moment it's too open, and that means all the magpies can get into nests. So we're going to crop this and make it a more condensed hedge, so the little birds that snack on pests, you know, blue tits, wrens, robins, thrushes, all that sort of thing, can nest in here. And then we've got a pond over here, big natural hill meadow pond, and I'm gonna investigate whether we can actually do some pond pumping from it. Now I think that the reservoir that is the pond is not full enough year round to provide enough water, so that I'm gonna investigate how sort of possible this is to give me some water, but in dry years I wouldn't be able to use that at all. So that's kind of the layout that I've got in my head at the moment. I'm going back to my favourite man, Jean-Martin Fortier, in terms of bed size. So again, 50 foot by 4 foot, and then the 4 foot beds are actually broken into two 30-inch beds, and then you have a little walkway down the middle. So you've got a 30-inch, an 18-inch, and a 30-inch, and this is stolen directly from Jean-Martin, and this is where he's a pro, and we all copy him. So I'm gonna aim to use this kind of bed size. And then for my markets, I'm looking for crops. I'm looking to do salads, tomatoes, radishes, spinaches, etc. And then this is taken directly from Serena. Building a customer base, kind of what I want to take to market, how many products that I want to initially offer, if I'm going to sell hatching eggs at market, if I'm going to sell chickens, and then also the potential for late sales, so later in the year, garden gate and flowers. Then if we flip over, this is my jobs list. It's going to be crazy. I'm never going to get all of this done in the first year, so I'm not even going to try that, I don't think. And then, I just realised my hand's in the way. And then business plan ideas. So the sales are to come from the market garden, farm shop, veg boxes, local Rico ring. So Rico over in the UK is basically it's a bit of a cross between a farmer's market and a CSA. So people that want products come and basically say what they want, and farmers say what they've got excess of, and it's kind of a meeting place in the middle. So you're kind of selling direct like at a farmer's market, but you're giving directly what people want, rather than just giving out a CSA box. Flowers, of course, and then Facebook and social media sales for food and seedlings and things. Year one, because of the situation, we are literally not going to get there until at least midsummer. So our first full season year is out of the box, is gone. So what we can do this in year one is we can practice. So we can, I put no expected sales. It's a trial year, and we're going to be late in the season. So I can still grow lettuces and radishes, carrots, spinach. I can still put on things for next year. And I've got squash, cucumber and tomato seed starts at home that I can put in. But that sort of thing is going to have to wait until the full season year in 2021, which is annoying, but let's make the best of it and make 2020 our trial year. So that's the Market Farm garden ideas, but as you all know from my house and garden, I love animals and there's no way I can't have any animals on the farm. I've talked quite a bit about it before that I'm going to have local rare breeds, so I don't want to just have any old thing. I want to really hone it down and have I want to do rare breeds and I want to do pedigree, but just to give it that extra spin, I want to do ones only from the local region, and that really limits what I can have, and I think that's good for my animal collecting brain because it means I can't just go out and collect everything. So things like, well, it's quite difficult to get a local East Anglian pig, but the large black is probably as close as you get. So we're going to have large black pigs. We're going to have red poll cattle, hopefully in the future. We're going to have more of a commercial sheep initially, so like a Suffolk, but I would like to go down the RBST, so the Rare Breeds Survival Trust list of Norfolk Horns. So let's take a look at my breakdown for the livestock. So here we have the start of my list for farm, and I haven't done any layouts because obviously I'm using rotational grazing for almost everything. So there's not going to be kind of a layout on the field. I'm just going to use one field at a time. So in year one, I'll use one field and I'll strip graze it, and then the next year I'll move them to a new field and strip graze that, and that will help with worm burdens and killing things off, so we don't get repeat pests. So my jobs list are things, sort of back office stuff that needs to be done. Things like registering it as a CPH, so county parish holding number. In the UK, everybody, if you're a livestock keeper, you need to have one of these because that is your official livestock owning reference. And then once I've got my CPH, I can put in for my herd and my flock numbers. And I can register my herd for my pigs and my cattle, etc. So these are all things that I kind of have to do before we move there. I need to build pure breed coops for the hatching eggs for the chickens. I need to build a chicken tractor. I need to build and source a movable field shelter for the sheep because I don't want to have field shelters that are stuck, that don't move. I want them to be able to move as I move across with the pasture rotation. Business plan for this year, so 2020. So at this stage, I can't really focus on anything bigger. So I'm focusing on the meat rabbit stock. So I've obviously got my girls. We have got one of them pregnant again. So this time Liara is pregnant. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on hatching eggs and chicks and pullets. And obviously at the moment, we've got an explosion of broody hens and loads of eggs coming. So that's very exciting. But then planning for 2021, I want to actually buy in, by the end of this year, I want to buy in some in-lamb ewes. So in-lamb, as you might think, means ewes that are pregnant. So I want to buy in-lamb ewes for 2021 lambing. So that means I get to do lambing next year. I need to get them between August and October, realistically. The other good thing about buying in-lamb or in-kid with the nannies is that you don't then have to, you can increase your stock without having to buy in a new boy. So if I bought 2 ewes, for example, and then had to buy a ram, and they had then lambs, any of those ewe lambs I would want to keep to increase my flock, but those ewe lambs are then related to the dad. So buying in lamb ewes means that I can effectively double my flock or my herd in the spring, and then next year I can bring in a billy or I can bring in a ram, and he won't be related to any of them. So that's the year one for the livestock. These are the breeds that I'm thinking. So my local rare breeds, as I just touched on, cattle, red poll. It's going to be a red poll, a small herd, maximum of kind of probably 5 heifers. Pigs, they're primarily for clearing the land, not for meat, but we will do some piglets and have some meat boxes with sausages and things. Anglo-Nubian goats, very English, that's what we want. Sheep, Suffolk, Norfolk, and Wiltshire Horn. They are not obviously a local rare breed. They're not a rare breed, they're not local, but they are easy, and I have a source for some great, really good pedigree stock. So I may look at those. And then obviously my poultry and my waterfowl. So Ixworth chickens, Silver Appleyards are the local rare breeds. Norfolk turkey, again, Norfolk black, local rare breed. So that's my list for that. And I think that's all we've got for livestock. And so the third and final thing is conservation and kind of the extra infrastructure stuff on the land. And as I mentioned, this is not the core business, because conservation doesn't really make any money until you've gone down the line and you can be creative. So in the future, I probably will make money from the conservation aspect by doing workshops, by doing tutorials, by selling courses where people can come to the land and they can learn about how to do biodiversity, how they can build a wildflower meadow for themselves, and that sort of thing. But initially, conservation isn't going to generate income, especially not enough income to live on. So this is kind of the conservation stuff. Is lots of projects that I want to get done, but they're going to be done as a sideline, and they're going to be done as funded not by kind of the core business, but by Patreons and YouTube and things. So let's look at the conservation list and the infrastructure list, and then we'll have a quick glance through all the costings and things that I need to buy. So conservation is one of the key things that we have been able to do while we're not actually at the land. So many of these projects have already been started. So the Pond 1 restoration has begun, woodland development has begun, wildflower meadow management, floral driveway, bluebell wood, this has all begun. The hedge laying and thickening is what I touched on earlier. The hedges have become very spacious. They need to be a lot denser to safeguard the smaller birds from the predator birds. And that's become a lot worse lately since they changed the law. So you now need specific licenses for killing things like magpies and stuff. And I have noticed a bit of a population explosion, which isn't a bad thing, but it just means that things like corvids and magpies and things go in and raid nests. So we just need to work with nature and make these hedges thicker so that all the little birds can go in and they can have their chicks safely without being worried by bigger birds. Owl boxes, bird boxes, birds of prey boxes, bat boxes, the Budleigh Grove and all of that sort. So this is all going to be ongoing conservation work that we do over the years. I've left quite a few pages in between to thicken, to add stuff. And then we've got miscellaneous projects and infrastructure, and obviously here we've got fencing for the roadside, farm shop in the future, the house build, obviously a big thing, utility connections, security cameras, the nuttery, which is where the turkeys are going to live, tropical garden, etc. in the future. So this is going to be a list that's ongoing and we add to constantly. Then finally, I've kind of drawn up a year one purchase list, because I think it's really important when you go into any business or anything like this that you actually have an idea of how much everything's going to cost and what you need to buy. Because I don't want to get to on site and suddenly realise I've got thousands of pounds worth of stuff still to buy. I want to start getting it together now. So the market garden, for example, I need a polytunnel. We need electric poultry netting to go around the edge of that market garden, because we've actively encouraged wildlife. So we've got deer, we've got rabbit, we've got hare. We need to keep them out. Pond liner has been very kindly donated. Rotivators very kindly donated. Landscape fabric I've been buying as we go. And compost, I need to source obviously tons and tons of compost. So that's kind of the market garden. And then we've got, again, livestock. What I've actually got to buy. I need to buy some sheep, I need to buy some goats, I need to get electric fencing for those goats and sheep as I move them across and pasture rotate. I need to get materials to make all these chicken tractors. For the farm projects and infrastructure, I need to get stock fencing. Luckily, good old mum and dad have come to the rescue with that. I need to get some more nut trees. I need to do stock fencing. So there's a lot. I think that's everything, but it's a good idea to kind of start to cost up and write lists of what you're actually going to need before you get there, because as I say, I don't want to get on site ready to go, having given up our jobs and moved house, suddenly to realise we've got so much more to buy. So I know this has been a really long and probably quite boring video for you guys, but it's been helpful for me, and hopefully I can look back on it in the future and see just kind of how these lists came together. But I also hope it has showed that we are thoroughly working towards the farm. You know, we're stuck in limbo at the moment, and a way to get me through limbo is to sit down and plan. And by writing lists, writing kind of projection lists, so year 1, year 2, year 3 of what I'm going to do, and then writing sourcing and cost lists. So I can now sit down and I can look at my market garden purchase list, and I can go through, and then I can start to find prices, and I can start to draw up a budget for it, so that I know, you know, when we sell this house, how much money do I need to put aside to buy the stuff to get that off the ground. Obviously, a lot of these things are dream wish list stuff, and they're not going to happen straight away. But it's worthwhile putting it on the dream list, because I think if you're doing something like this, think big and then work with what you've got and build it up. There's no point thinking small. A big thing like this, you've got to dream big, you've got to think big. So thank you for tuning in. If you've made it this far, well done, because it has been a long old video. I will hopefully get back into the garden very soon. We're looking to have some rain, which I can't wait for, because we haven't had any rain for ages. There is tons of stuff in the incubator. There are tons of eggs under chickens, and we've definitely got a pregnant rabbit this time. So I shall see you all again very soon with all of those updates. If you've liked the video, please hit that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing if you want to see, hopefully, all of these plans actually come to fruition. And I shall see you very soon. Bye-bye.